I hope you all know you are supposed to turn your cameras on and not the guest speaker look at the alphabets.
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am,
हाँ अक्षय.
ma'am, can you please excuse me for today? I'm not capable.
For once you have to switch on. एक बार उनको आने दो, then in between maybe you can switch off, but it won't create a good impression अगर सब लोग ऐसे off करके passive listeners रहेंगे तो.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, for some time, Akshay, please be switch it on. कीर्ति, सुरभि, स्मृति, दिव्यांशु, स्नेहा, दिशा, कोमल.
Ma'am, my camera is on.
You weren't visible all this time. अब आप दिख रहे हो. Anushka, Sneha, Harsha, you all are not visible. Ankita.
Ma'am, my camera is on.
Yes, ma'am, my
It
camera
is
is
on from last 5 minutes.
ma'am, mine too.
Can you turn it off and then turn it on again so that कुछ glitch होगा तो सही हो जाएगा.
Ma'am, is it
Ma'am, is
visible,
it
ma'am?
visible?
No, Harsha. And you can put your mic on the off mode.
Ma'am, but I've already on the video.
Can't see.
Ma'am, I'm just leaving and joining again.
Okay.
Ma'am, is my video visible?
Yes, Anushka.
Okay.
Ma'am, is my video visible now?
No, Ankita. Yes, sir. Yes, yes. For sure, sir. Please join. Yeah, yeah. Oh.
Ma'am, now?
No, Ankita. Ankita, let it be. आप एक बार अपना mic off कर दें. Is somebody's mic on?
Yeah, my mic was on. She just a moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, sir. Yeah, good morning, Ali. How are you? How are you doing?
Yeah, fine, wonderful. How are you doing?
Great, great. So it gives me pleasure to welcome you to Arch Academy of Design, and let me introduce you to my batch first. This is a 8 semester program in which they are still in the third semester. And my dear students, Mr. Ali is takes me, gives me a lot of pleasure to welcome him. And he's an acoustic consultant and proprietor at his firm Sound of Silence, with more than experience of more than 8 years. He has rendered his successful services to multinational corporates, hotels, restaurants, art galleries, studios. Among a long list of his esteemed clientele, to name a few, would be Dharma Productions, Prithvi Theatre, and a number of corporates, including Johnson and Johnson, ACC Cement House, and the list is really long, mind you. And Mr. Ali has not only gained popularity as an acoustic consultant, but also as an educator to aspiring interior designers and architects, and conducted several master workshops for prominent colleges in Mumbai, NM being one of them. So I would, hand over to Ali sir, so that he can take you to his world of silence. And welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Nishi, for a wonderful introduction. Yeah, so I'll just take over. I can do the screen sharing right now.
Sure.
Yeah. You can see my screen.
No, as of now.
Okay, it's not giving me a share option. I
Sir,
believe.
okay. Sir, in the lower right corner, there is a present now option.
Yeah, I've clicked that. But it's not
Yeah.
giving me share option. It's giving me cancel. That's it.
No, if you click on that, it will show you your
Okay,
entire
okay.
screen.
Yeah.
Your entire screen.
You're able to see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Somehow my full screen is not coming. Okay, we'll begin with this, like this only. Somehow my PPT is showing me a problem. So, hi, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Aliasgar, and I started this firm around 10 years back. It was in 2010. We are in 2020 now, and it's been a long journey. Over a period of time, we've catered to many fortes in acoustics, many classifications. As you can see on my screen, it would be hotel rooms, auditoriums, offices, recording studios, classroom, etc. So just to introduce you to acoustics, what is acoustics? Acoustics, anything and everything to do with sound is acoustics. So if you say that this is an acoustical cloth, what does it mean? Either the cloth will absorb the sound, either it will allow the sound to travel, or it will stop the sound to travel. So any kind of a cloth or any kind of a material can be termed as acoustic. However, in layman terms today, people say that any absorptive surface is acoustic. So if you can reduce the echo, a layman says that it is an acoustical product. However, if you go by the definition, what acoustic is? Anything that has to do with sound. Having said that, let's go to the next slide. I call it ABCD of acoustics. A is for absorption. So if there is an echo, you need to absorb that echo. That can be done through absorption. Second is blocking the sound. So what you see where my cursor is, there is a source of sound where there is 100 decibels being playing. And when it goes to the other side of the wall, it becomes 55 decibels. So you're trying to stop the sound by 45 decibels. Sound is measured in decibels. So the intensity of sound is always measured in decibels, and so B is blocking the sound from traveling from one room to another. Then C is for cover. What do you mean by cover? The old saying which we have, if you cannot convince, confuse. So let's say you have made up a space, and that space, you can't, it's renovated and you can't do much of any absorption treatment or isolation treatment after it is done, because it might affect your interiors, or you don't have that much of space to move behind or something like that. So then what best you can do is you can cover a sound or add an additional sound in the place where you don't want a person to hear what your conversations are. So you create an artificial sound. Over here you see there's a background red mark. So you're creating an artificial sound in this area. So when this person is trying to say that our new missile is ready for launch, this person does hear some murmuring voices, but he misinterprets it as what Messi is ready for lunch. So he's not able to contemplate the conversation clearly. So that is done with something what we call as sound masking systems. So that is cover, and D is diffusion. Many a times you want the loudness to remain in the room. However, you don't want it to echo. So what is diffusion? Diffusion breaks the sound into very small pieces. So it does not leave an echo in the room, but the intensity of the sound remains the same. So another virtual representation of what I just explained. This is the source of sound. The sound which is bouncing and going is called an echo. So if you look at the first top red line, it is bouncing and going to the receiver. So that is an echo for him. But when it is going to an absorptive material over here, it gets absorbed. So there is no echo. However, the sound will travel to the absorber and go on the other side of the wall. And this is a direct sound which is going towards the diffuser. So it is being broken up into many pieces. So it is getting, the intensity is still remaining there, but the echo is not there. And this is the direct sound. So usually you prefer a direct sound and a diffuse sound, but reflections are required only where there are large auditoriums or something like that, so that the sound can travel till behind.
Okay.
If I am fast or something, Nishi, just let me know. Huh?
Yeah. One of my students can answer this. Ishita?
No, it's completely clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
As of-
Okay. Yeah.
So just stop me if I am going too fast or a little slow, or if you get stuck or something, you can always stop me there, and you can ask me a question.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Having said that, now what I talked about blocking is called soundproofing in layman terms. So how do you do a sound isolation or blocking, or how do you test? You measure or you create a sound on one side of the room, you create a wall, and then you measure the sound on the other side of the room. And the intensity of the sound, what was there at the source room and the receiving room, are separately measured and minus. And that minus is the isolation what you receive. So this is called the sound transmission loss. And that is a loss of sound, and the material capability to give that sound loss is called sound transmission control, STC. So that is the measurement of isolation. Similarly, if you look at this picture over here, this picture, there is a speaker over here which is throwing the sound in the room where there are multiple reflections. Then suddenly the speaker is stopped. And how much time it takes for it to decay by 60 decibels is measured. And that is the amount of echo in the room. So to find an echo, you have to play a sound at a steady level. You have to suddenly stop the sound, and you have to measure how quickly it falls down below 60 decibels. You might require a little echoic place, sometimes you might not. Like if you look at the old churches and the mandirs, temples, the old mosques, they wanted the sound to travel to a large area. So they used to have echoic rooms or echoic structures where the sound used to travel and build up. Currently, we have speakers and amplifiers, and we are using technology. So you don't want much of an echo because you are relying on technology much more. So then after you have measured this, you can understand how much you want to reduce the echo by and how much absorptive materials you need to put in the room to make it livable.
Okay.
This I've just explained the sound masking system. This is the same thing. You create an artificial sound with speakers, and that removes the clarity of the speech which people are talking at. This removes the clarity of the speech, and that is why a person who is in an open office structure or something like that, he is not able to contemplate a conversation, and that is why he does not get disturbed and he concentrates on his own work.
Okay.
So this whole thing is done by technology, and it's speaker and sensor driven. When the volume on the floor or more people are talking, the speakers emit a little larger sound. It is the white noise, what we people call. Like right now, what I hear from the speakers, there is a humming noise, a continuous humming kind of a noise.
Yes.
That is the white noise. So when this noise is playing in the background, it does not annoy you. After some time, your ears get accustomed to it. So it does not annoy you to that extent, but it helps you in concentration. Having just given a brief about what type of products or what acoustics is, I will take you through the products now. So these are 9 mm acoustical panels. These are ready-made pre-colored panels. These are made up of polyester fibers, and they are knitted together. So the kind of the recent pillows and that all we get, there is an engineering which happens in that, and they compress it to a level where it is made in 9 mm, and it is highly absorptive in nature. When I say absorptive in nature, is that the best part of the I'll just take you. Absorptive in nature means there are different categories of absorption. So this, when you stick it on a wall, directly on a wall, if I have to put it, if you see the background of my screen, I'll have to show you. Okay. Once again, when I come back, the back of my wall has these 9 mm panels. So when I stick it directly behind my or in my room on my wall, it gives me a 0.35 NRC. Now NRC over here is noise reduction coefficient. And when I just take this material immediately 1 inch away from the wall, it doubles its intensity, like it will absorb 0.7. So NRC or coefficient of a product is measured in less than 1. So 1 is the maximum, 100%. And 0.7, 0.35, 0.2 is the percentage that it can absorb. And this is also for certain frequencies. So the advantages of this product is that it is already pre-colored. Now if you come to this, like these are the products where it has been used directly on the wall.
Okay.
So the advantage is you don't have to do much of a work after it is put. You directly stick it on the wall, you create a design, you stick it on the wall, and your room is ready. You don't have to do any additional work. However, the absorption coefficient is a little less. But then it depends on the room to room concept. Like if your room is already too absorptive and you just need marginal absorption, you can use this. The second use, people use it as even when in offices they use it as a soft board as well as an acoustical board. So it serves two purposes. It absorbs a little bit of the noise as well as it acts as a soft board.
Okay.
And studio, economical studios, this is very easy to install, fast, quick to do, and it is ready in no time. So it really helps. So places where economical studios are made, usually people prefer putting this.
Okay. So can I ask you something?
Yes, please.
How are these panels available? As in 9 mm, 12 mm, how do we decide which we are going to paste on our walls? Secondly, can I put it on my brick wall before the paint or after the paint also? And one more question regarding the same panel would be, जैसे आपने इसे you have used 2 colors, so just a brief on how they are available to us.
Okay, so this is available in an 8x4 size. It comes in 9 mm and 12 mm. Yes. 9 mm does its work fine. 12 mm is actually people introduced it so that because 9 mm was very easily available now in the market recently, it became highly available and it's become like a commodity in acoustics. So anybody and everybody has this product who's dealing with acoustical materials. People then introduced to be a little different from the market to get a little premium. They started introducing a 12 mm one. Yeah, so it is available in 9 mm and 12 mm. If I look at the NRC value, there is not much difference between a 9 mm and a 12 mm. But it is just to differentiate or get a premium. People are also promoting 12 mm. Having said that, the second question was you can stick this. I would suggest that the wall should be straight. So if you're doing a brick wall, you have a plastering done, then you need not paint it. You can directly stick this because this is a pre-colored one. And so if you cannot paint anything on top of it. The idea of all absorptive materials, wherever you want to reduce the echo, you need to have it exposed. The pores need to be exposed so that it can absorb. So none of the acoustical materials you can paint or block their pores.
Okay, got your point.
And similarly, most of the absorptive materials are also used as heat insulators. The reason being the same. Whatever materials are used for heat insulation have pores. Like heat, air is one of the mediums which insulates heat. And all absorptive surfaces have air in between, so they have pores. So similarly, this 9 mm panel has a pore, so it will be able to give some kind of, but ideally it is not a right product for heat insulation, but it will also have heat insulation properties. Minimal, still it will have. So most, or I would say almost all acoustical absorptive products have heat insulation properties.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe I
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So may I ask something from you?
Yeah, please.
So can these panels be used to achieve exactly like soundproofed rooms? For example, can the NRC be one using these? Is there some condition where we can use it in a way to do that?
Okay, so now there are two things. One, there is nothing like a complete soundproof rooms. There are rooms which can isolate to a certain extent. If you say for a studio, what we do is a 51 to 53 decibels isolation. So if you are playing a sound at 100 decibels, the intensity will reduce to 47 decibels. But the background noise at places is by itself somewhere around 42 or 43 decibels. So you do not hear the additional 5 decibels is not that significant for a person to contemplate what is being done inside the studio room or something like that. Secondly, absorptive materials do not help in isolation. They might reduce the intensity of the noise because they are absorbing some amount of sound. But after absorption, it is allowing the sound to travel on the other side. So it is allowing the sound to travel beyond it. So it is what it's doing is it is blocking the echo, but it is allowing the sound to travel. So for a soundproof room, absorptive material is not an ideal solution. It is one of the things which should be there in a room, but it is not something that will give you an isolation by itself.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, and the working.
Excuse.
Yeah, please.
Sir, you can continue.
Okay. The third question which Nishi had probably questioned was what is the workability about these panels? These panels are very easy to cut. You can cut them with paper cutter or the cutter machines which the carpenters use. For straight lines and everything, we recommend using of the cutter machines. But if you want to even shape it with a paper cutter, it is easy to cut. Very handy. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I wanted to ask one question.
Yes.
What about its price?
This is ranging like 9 mm is ranging between the Indian ones. I don't know, the quality is not that great, but somebody is selling it at 70 also, and it's going right up to 110. So the range is 70 rupees a square feet,
Okay.
and it goes to 110 rupees a square feet for a good quality, imported from Taiwan or Thailand. And yeah, so that is the rate.
Okay.
And 8x4 size. Now, installation process for other materials as well. Like you can also put those 9 mm panels by creating a framework. As I told you, when you create a framework, the effectiveness of those 9 mm panel increases. Even if I am keeping a 1 inch gap and I'm putting the 9 mm panel, so first its NRC or its absorption capability was 35%, it goes to 70%. So we create a framework usually out of wood. Some people do create for quick cutting aluminum, but aluminum has a zing of its own. So you have to actually understand where you're going to put it. If you're going to put it in a studio microphones are very sensitive. So you cannot have any kind of a zing. But if it is you can say an office kind of a thing, if you want, you can use an aluminum. But I prefer using wood in all my work. Either wood or a ply. Ply is also a type of a wood, but those are the things which we use for creating the framework as well. Then there is, in these gaps, we fill a polyester wool. The looser, these 9 mm panels are made from polyester wool. So the raw material is a polyester wool, and it has been compressed. So we use the base material in the gaps sometimes. If you use the base material in those gaps and then put a 9 mm panel, the absorption increases to 0.9, means it becomes 0.9, means it becomes 90%.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we create a framework. We put the material, like if you look at these black ones, these are another material which is called as a whisper foam. I'll be coming to that. You insert it over there, and then finally you can put your 9 mm panel or whatever finishing materials you want to put. So you have to decide. Every product, like even the polyester wool has its own absorptive properties. So even if you leave it as it is and you cover it up with a cloth or something like that, still there will be a significant reduction in the echo. But then there could be some bulges or something like that. So, you have to just work it out. If you keep perforated sheets in front, it could do its job and it will absorb the echo. So it all depends what your finish is, what your interior look is, and then finally you can come to the conclusion what you want to put on the top. I prefer using 9 mm panels when there is no framework required and quick and low budget. But when the framework is required, I prefer cloth finishes.
Okay.
To cover a cloth on the frame, there is something what we call as a gripper system. These are the grippers which you see. This is for a corner one, this is for a center one, and this is the edges, where these are the joining ones. Means two of them are joining. This is joining at the corner, and this is just on one wall, which needs to be closed at one end. So these are the kind of things which you create. You create a network of grippers. You create a framework, and all you have to do is apply an acoustic material in center of this and clip the cloth inside. So there is no, usually what happened earlier was that whenever you go to stick a cloth, there is a little bit of untidiness or which comes in. And if fabric becomes loose or something, you cannot tighten it again. When you are using a gripper system, it usually remains tight. The cloth does not lose its stiffness that easily. And even if it does, all you need is this gadget or a scalpel, and just push it back, push the cloth back in, and it is tight again. It becomes very easy. But of course, this workability is costing a little extra. You have to spend for the cloth. If you want some prints or something, you have to pay for the print extra. And the whole installation process will, like, the framework will cost you an amount, and the gripper will cost you another 120 rupees a square feet with labor. So you're looking at increasing the cost, but of course, the people who prefer cloth finishes will go for this.
Okay. So, sir, can I procure the furnishing from any furnishing shop, or it has to be the one which you offer along with the? It
Okay.
could be leatherite, it could be any fabric, right?
Okay. So selection of fabric. If you are looking for eco treatment, it cannot be leatherite. So you have to see one thing, that there is air can pass through your fabric. It can be any fabric, but air should pass through it. So if you blow through the fabric, the air should go outside. Or you take the fabric, you put it in front of a sunlight, and you should be able to see the dots of the light. You know,
Right.
so that signifies that okay, there is transparency.
Right.
So if for any of the, as I told you earlier, you cannot paint an acoustical panel because its pores get filled. So similarly, when you are using a leatherite or a leather-based material, what happens is pores get blocked. So means actually the sound is actually not reaching the absorptive material as such, and that is, it is not working. Means the echo is still there. It is reflecting the sound back in the floor. So
Right.
ideally, you have to use more of cloth which are transparent in nature for absorption. If absorption is not a need kind of a thing, and if you just need to contain the heat or something like that, you are getting an air gap. And then if you're using a leatherite material in front, it could work fine. So if acoustics is not your concern and heat is your concern, yes, you can use a leatherite and a leather-based material.
Okay. Okay.
Excuse me,
And-
sir.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but then I have a question that so till now we learned that we learned about how we can soundproof a room like by installing the panels on the walls and ceilings. So is there anything we can do for the windows and doors also?
Yeah, I'll be coming to that. And right now, I've not talked about soundproofing as so much. I'll be talking about absorption of echo. Absorption does not isolate. I have got something for the door as well down below. So I'll just take you through that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So other base materials, and these are all classic materials which are being used like for 100 years now probably. Rock wool is one of them. These are some fibers which are being created by breaking the stones, rock, and then again threaded into, and it is created as a rock wool. These are economical in nature, highly heat resistive, and even you can say more fire retardant in nature. However, there's a disadvantage. Though people call that it is a green product, rock wool is a greener product than glass wool. But yes, it is abrasive in nature. So if you are touching it, you feel scratchy, and you'll keep scratching yourself, and you'll not come to know what is the reason. So the thing is that when you're putting or applying a glass wool or a rock wool, you have to cover it up with something so that you are not exposed to it. And in any case, the cover comes out, you will be breathing that, you would be, feeling a scratchy or this thing. Your client might see because you used it. Maybe your client will not know what is the reason why he's feeling a scratchy feeling every time he is there. And if there's a leakage or exposure of this, he could also get cancer because all these stuff is cancerous. Since it is abrasive, and when you breathe, the small particles go into your lungs, they can create cancer. So olden days, people used to use this. Still, people use it many places because it is highly economical in nature. When that was 70 to 120 rupees, this comes into 20 to 25 to 30 rupees range. So it is so economical in nature. So still, people use it. Industrial places, many people use it. Advantages: one, it is fire retardant. Disadvantages are that these products tend to sag. Means 1 year it will work. After a period of 1 year, they slowly start sagging. Means they lose their shape or their capacity. The moment they are exposed to water, they lose their capacity to perform. So they might look in shape, but the water with exposure to water loses its property of insulation as well as absorption.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a very old product, highly used. Wherever if you're going to put it between two partitions which are not going to open at all, you can use this. It has high absorptive properties, so still good. but you have to ensure that any time for any maintenance or anything, it does not get exposed to the client. And I don't know, in India, people are not that this thing. Workers do not wear mask or anything, but usually they are also supposed to be wearing mask, and because if they also breathe this, they could be exposed to cancer. Same thing, like that was made up of minerals and stones. Glass wool is a byproduct of glass manufacturing industries, and any small pieces and the waste is joined together, and a glass wool is created. What you see a silver foil over here that helps in additional insulation. So even in rock wool, even in glass wool, both come with aluminium foils as well. Where heat is a concern, you apply this towards the exposed side of the heat, the aluminium foil, and the glass wool is on the lower end.
Okay.
Or vice versa also it is okay. The heat does not transmit down. So the main idea over here is that wherever aluminium foil you will see, the main function will not be acoustics. It will be more on thermal part of it.
Thermal insulation.
Yeah, it will be more on the thermal part. And both glass wool and rock wool come with aluminium foils.
Okay. So, sir, if they are available in a roll form, can we paste it again directly on the say a wall or a terrace or something, the floor of the terrace?
So they come in roll form and the board form. What you're seeing over here is a board form. In the roll form sticking, actually these are fibers. So finally, even if you stick it, the fibers are going to tend to loosen off. So if you are sticking it, usually you prefer to stick it on the aluminium foil side, or you screw it if you are putting on the negative side of the exposure, the exposed surface. And ideally, you tend to screw it and create another false ceiling below it. You create a false ceiling, you overlay it, and then put a final gypsum or something down below. So gypsum also is an isolative material. Then glass wool or rock wool adds to that, and then it gives you a saving of the heat intensity.
Right, right.
So over so many years, we've been using glass wool and rock wool. People started realizing that no, glass wool and rock wool is cancerous in nature, and we should not be using it. And then now, recently, you can say that past maybe 4 or 5 years or so, this is a new thing which they developed, which is a polyester wool. As I told you, the 9mm and the 12mm panels which we saw the design, it is made up of this material itself. This is compressed more and created into a board format. So this is a replacement for the glass wool and rock wool. It has thermal insulation properties, but not to the level of a rock wool and a glass wool. But yes, it is a thermal isolator as well as sound absorber. The benefit is that it is more compressed, it is non-abrasive, and it does not affect the end user even if they are exposed to it after installation. So that is why I prefer using this. Yes, it is not fire retardant also to that extent. So they say that if it does not spread the fire, but if there is a fire, it will melt. So these are not fire, you can't say it is a fire resistant material. These are fire retardant materials. And fire retardant materials are the ones which do not spread the fire, but when exposed to fire, they will burn.
Yeah.
So those were all absorptive materials. Now there are membranes, isolating membranes, what we call them. These are the membranes which we use to stop the sound from going from one room to another, or vibrations from traveling from one end to another. One of the brands is Tech Sound. It is flexible. That is why whenever you are using these materials, it is highly recommended that you sandwich it between two things. So if you have created a framework, you apply it on a framework and then put another ply on top of it, or a Hilux or a gypsum on top of it. That helps you to isolate. Now, the isolating property of a Tech Sound or a flexible membrane or a mass loaded vinyl there are many terms which come into when people call it mass-loaded vinyl, isolating membrane, or maybe they might call it a tech sound itself. It will give you an additional 5 to 8 decibels depending on the thickness which we are using. So let's say my wall was going to give me 28 decibels or a 35 decibels isolation. When I put a tech sound, I'm ensuring that, okay, fine, it is going to give me 40 decibels isolation. But the benefit apart from that is that this membrane covers mostly all frequencies. Now in sound there are frequencies. The lower frequencies are the drums and you can say the machine noise, vibrative noise are the lower frequencies which travel. Then the mid frequencies are usually what we talk. Mid and the highs are what we talk. And the flute and everything comes on the higher frequency side. So higher frequencies are very easy to control. The lower frequencies take a lot of time or a lot of effort to control. So these membranes, wherever there's a weakness, every material has its own limitations. They have their own dips and graphs. That certain frequencies can travel through a wall very easily, while other frequencies might be getting stopped very nicely. The advantages of using a membrane or an isolating material is that they have a more bandwidth of frequencies which they stop. So when you are using materials like this, it ensures that mostly all your frequencies are covered up, and that is how it gives you an additional +5. There is a whole study of frequencies which I don't want to get into in this course right now, or I would have better explained how it gives you a +5. So maybe other frequencies it is not very effective, but that 1 or 2 frequencies which is stopping nicely increases the SPC of your wall by 5 decibels. Now when I talk about NRC, I'm talking about STC. There are certain norms which industry has created. They work on certain frequencies itself. They do not cover all the frequencies. So when an NRC is calculated and I say 1, it is like 250, 500, 1000, 2000 and 4000 hertz which is measured. And if it is absorbing those frequencies nicely, completely, then I say that, okay, it is 1. But maybe in between, if there is a 375 which it is not absorbing or it is reflecting back, still my absorption coefficient still remains 1. So it is an indicative figure, it is not an absolute figure. You have to understand that. So many a times when you take an acoustician along with you, he tries to find out what is the frequency which is a problem for you, and then he tries to give you a solution for that specific frequency if possible, or a specific product which caters to that frequency much better.
Okay.
Similarly, for a layman, I do not know which frequency is the problem, so usually I take these materials so that which more or less covers most of the frequencies well, and it ensures me that, okay, there will be a proper isolation which I'm looking for better. So that is why you use materials like mass-loaded vinyl or Texas.
Okay.
This is a very new product. It's called a whisper form. This has been invented by the company which had invented the bubble wrap. And this is working on other physics. Like usually it is said that when the mass or the weight is high, then the isolation is much more better. But this foam works on another principle of sound energy, that it takes it into combs. It takes it into small combs, and it breaks the sound into so many small pieces. It converts by reflection, it converts it into heat energy, and it also acts as an absorptive surface as well as an isolated surface. So it's doing both the properties. It is absorbing and isolating. The unique property of this product is it is sound absorbing, water retardant, fire retardant, and has a shelf life of around 10 years.
Okay.
So, yeah. So when we are using glass wool, rock wool, after 1 year, its performance starts deteriorating. Now let's say you made up a house, a premium place, and you've used glass wool and rock wool. The first year, maybe the tenants or the client might not hear the sound transmission from one room to another. And suddenly, after 1 year, he feels that no, there is sound, and by the end of the second year, he might be hearing whatever is being spoken on the other side of the wall very clearly into his room. Now, it could create a problem because the interiors are done. You do not break the interiors again and again. So, and the reason why he must have put all that money and the workmanship in between, they could have might as well, if you don't want a soundproof room, might as well you might put a blockboard and create a partition, or you could just create a partition with gypsum. Now, the reason you've gone with all these hassles is that you want sound isolation, and if you don't get it after 1 year, the problem is that you wasted your money, which you had put earlier. Let's assume that you can open it and redo it, but then there is a lot of labor cost which is involved. So you're spending a lot of amount in that labor. This ensures that when it is installed, if it is working, today it is working and giving you this much of an isolation. Tomorrow, after 10 years also, it will give you the same amount of isolation. So that is why it is something a good material to use for, where I say that I don't know about Rajasthan, but over here in Mumbai now there are multi-level buildings which are going for 60 floors and 70 floors. Now, as the height is increasing, they are reducing the cost of construction, or reducing the weight load on the floor area. So they are not allowing you to use brick walls.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the options, some builders give them is a Ciporex walls. But Ciporex walls are lightweight. They are very good for echo. But however, they allow the sound transmission to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, so in Ciporex walls, we use isolated materials as well to give it an additional isolation. Now, wherever dry walls are used, and those are all premium clientele, a person staying in a 70-floor building is going to be a premium client who is going to spend a bomb on his interiors. And when he's spending so much of amount, and if he uses a glass wool or a rock wool, and then he doesn't get that kind of an isolation after a year or two, it is going to be a big nuisance for him. So this product can take care of it. However, this product is 10 times the cost of a glass wool or a rock wool. So there is a pro, there is a con. You don't have to revisit it. Whenever you open this, if there is a leakage in the wall, in your plumbing or anything, it is not going to get affected. So it will keep working. And however, it is an expensive product.
But then it's a value for money actually.
Yeah, it is a value for money, but it depends on if the client understands that. So there has been a slow, I would say there has been a slow educative process which clients have started understanding. So we've used for a few premium projects, and the clientele is very happy with it. However, there are the people who are price conscious and do not go for it. So for them, it is the interior look which matters rather than many a times it is the look rather than the livability. And I've seen in India more it is we have been actually focused on livability more, means more on the looks rather than the livability. Like we are not worried about how convenient it is to use something, but how aesthetically appealing it is, because that is the points which usually the architects get.
Yes.
In olden days, if you look at the old buildings of during the Maharajas and all those stuff, if you see their buildings were insulative, their buildings were also acoustically isolative, as well as the acoustics were so nice. Because I always give these examples. When I had gone to Hyderabad, the Golconda Fort, the gate is somewhere around a kilometer away from the castle is at a height, and it is around 1 kilometer away from the gate. And they had a technology in such a way that when somebody used to communicate at the gate, the person standing at the fort or this thing, they could hear the conversation clearly, so they could communicate so well. So acoustics were to those levels, Or when you go to Agra, then you see where Akbar used to sit and where Tansen used to sing the songs and play the music. It's way far. But when you look at the beauty of the sound and everything, so their acoustics was beyond certain levels, which we don't look at. The first and their aesthetics was also to that extent, and their acoustics was to that extent. But currently, most of the architects focus on acoustic or on aesthetics and not acoustics.
True, sir. True.
So it all depends. Whether you want, yes, please.
Sorry. Ashita, you had a question?
Yes, I just wanted to ask what are the main materials that Whisper foam is made up of?
It is a polyethylene based material, and the whole thing depends on, if you see this closely, there are certain pores. So it's a construction which goes in. There are certain pores. So these pores have been engineered and put in such a way that the sound goes inside and it gets broken up into smaller pieces and gets absorbed and blocks the sound from traveling across it. So it's a different construction, and the base material is polyethylene. So it is only polyethylene with its construction capabilities.
Okay.
So if you see, there are some small dots, and over here, those are the dots where the sound actually penetrates in and it takes care of.
Right.
So these are places where or how whisper foam has been used. We have used it in our walls where we have, there are washroom noises which are coming from the washroom wall to an conference room. We created a framework. We kept the whisper foam 50 mm over here and then covered it up with cloth. There is another module which is UV, and since it is UV resistive, it is water retardant, fire retardant. Wherever machine noise are there, residential areas where there are chiller plants on the terrace, and there are residential buildings across as well, which complain of the high chiller noise. Usually what happens is that 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, usually the chiller plants start. And when they start, they make a huge noise. So the neighboring buildings and the neighbors get disturbed and they complain a lot. And these days, BMC is also proactive. So if there is a certain limit of sound which is going to the neighbor's residence, then they might stop your premises or stop you from using that chiller plants as well. And it's not economical to change or shift chiller plants once the whole construction is done. So whisper foam acts as a acoustical barrier and a fence for that. The same thing you do here. This is not used here. It has been significantly used in Australia and New Zealand, so one of the New Zealand sites. You can say a swimming pool, auditorium, sports complex, a closed, there's a lot of echo. So usually, I can say that I've used a similar product at one of the auditoriums in a school, in the international school in Mumbai, Bandra, where even at a distance of 5 feet, if the teacher was telling, the basketball teacher who used to tell the students to do something, the echo was so much that they could not even hear the communication, what he was shouting. And once these absorptive materials were used over there, it became so nice that they could have not only use it as a playground, but they use it for their annual day function with speakers and amplifiers. And the presentation was amazingly well clear. So using these things really help. So for the use, how much we require, that we can work it out. But these are the things. So like a sports complex, whenever there's a lot of echo, what it brings is a fatigue. After 10-15 minutes staying in an echoic place, suddenly you will lose your concentration and focus, and you'll drain out a lot of energy from your body. And that is undesirable. So having the right amount of acoustics or a reverberation is very important.
Right.
9 mm panels we saw. This is a shape given by the company. If you want to use it for internal, because it comes only in black and white. So if you want to use a cloth and don't want to go through the hassles of a gripper system and giving a cloth finish, you probably use it in shapes and sizes you want. Same, a floating ceiling created from this cloth.
Okay. So, sir, I would like to ask, the center one which you are showing is the black and white panels.
Yes.
So it's not, put across the wall, as in not wall to wall. It's just a patch or a design which is created. Similarly, in the other one, in which you have created a design on the ceiling. So how would we decide as a, I think the consultant is the best person to tell us, okay, how much amount of things would go in? So you can just brief it on us.
Okay. So there is a working which goes that if you give me a dimension of the room, the length, the breadth, and the height. Tell me the material which has been used in construction, because every material is having its own absorptive and reflective property. If you give me a design which you have considered for this thing and the construction of which your room has been or your space has been made up of, I can tell you how much echo would be there in the room.
Okay.
That is number one. If you want to verify, there is a process as I told you that we bring speakers in the space, we play it at a certain volume, a white noise, we suddenly stop it and we take the measurements during that drop, how much time it is taking for it to fall by 60 decibels. And that is the second method that will tell you that how much echo is there in the room. So both of them tell you how much echo is there, reverb is there in the room. Now after that, how much absorptive material to use. Now that also we can tell you on the selection of the material you've taken. Like what are you ready to go for? So every material would be having an NRC of 1 would be having an NRC of 0.75, one will be having a NRC of 0.35. On basis of that, we calculate that how much material of absorptive material you'll require in that room. And on basis of that, we can design something and look at the placements of where we should be putting those materials.
Okay, got your point.
I could have gone in that detail, but probably when the students are in the fourth year and want to actually this thing, then we can create that.
Yes. No, true, sir. Just that, I just wanted to give them an introduction to the material and.
If you look over here, these lantern kinds of things and everything, these will also help in diffusing and removing the echo. So the more non-straight lines which are there in your rooms help you avoid the echo and break the sound into smaller pieces. More cushions are there and non-straight flat walls.
Okay.
So these are certain sealants. Like if you're looking for isolation, the idea is that you are not supposed to leave even a pinhole. There are certain materials. These are some which we represent, but these are also available in the market and with other brands. Usually when we found that in many studios, your electrical conduits are a big problem for sound transmission. So when your conduits are going from one wall to another, and there are hollow conduits, it is ideally suggested that from the conduit from where the wires are coming up, you should seal it up with a fire acoustical sealant. So we usually feel that any hole which is going through and through is going to be a source of sound. It's same thing. Your chain is as strong as the weakest link, and the weakest link is your holes. So many a times what happens is that having acoustical laborers or contractors which are there in place, they do not understand the importance of materials which are being used. So let's say you've used the text sound in the whole wall, but because of 1 feet or 2 feet, 2 square feet of area, you had the less material, he did not put it over there. And because of that, there could be a transmission of sound. Now, he doesn't understand. You've seen the final finish, you will never come to know. You'll say, I sent the material properly at site. They have used it, and why is the sound going? But there is that 2 square feet of area where he did not put that material which becomes your weak link. So similarly, so all those things need to be sealed and taken care of or educated to your contractors or your team, and make sure that even if it is little less, you stop the work or you look at the other side of it and you tell me and I'll give you the new material, but don't compromise on the materials for the sake of finishing the work. So these are some things which we have come across, and over a period of time, we developed certain sealants and we brought some qualitative sealants from the market on research and everything. I do some testing at my end itself. I have a testing room where I test materials for their echo properties or isolated properties and all those stuff. And then these are the things which we have come to a conclusion that these things work fine. The idea is that you have to seal all gaps.
Right.
So somebody had raised a question for the doors. There's very limited things you can do for floor spring doors. There's very limited things which you can do for sliding doors. Wherever the sliding doors and the windows come, the thing about a sliding door or a window is that it needs gap for it to move on wheels. And when you have a requirement for those gaps, there's going to be transmission of sound. What those gaps are filled is with a small woolen pile, what they call it. And eventually that pile on rigorous movements or when exposed to water, it tends to deteriorate, lose its properties. And then over a period of time, the sound travels through sliding doors and sliding windows. So wherever sound is very critical, we do not recommend sliding doors and sliding windows. Where it is okay sorts that okay, we want to isolate to a certain extent, but no, little bit sound coming in would be okay. Then sliding doors with a laminated glass or a DGU, what we call as a double glaze unit, people are putting. Sometimes it works, but highly not recommended if you are looking as an acoustician point of view. I do not recommend sliding doors and windows. Having said that, for doors, there are two things. One is a drop-down seal, which is an external and an internal one. This is something which has been put inside the door, and this is outside the door. So when the door shuts, this button over here, if you see there's a small button over here, there's a small button over here. This will hit the frame or this unit, a piece over here, and it will press. When it presses, there is a small aluminium gadget over here, which will fall down on the floor and cover the gap from between the door and the floor.
Okay.
So the gaps which are there from the door and between the door and the floor are covered through a drop-down seal. Now, this can reduce the sound significantly because most of the sound travels through the floor, and that is the air gap. Any place where you can throw a torch, or in a dark room when you are on one side there is a tube light and other side is a dark room and you can see the light coming in, you know that okay, this is a place where air and insects as well as the sound is going to come from. So this shuts that gap up.
Right.
So this is one, so this is one of the things which is recommended when you're going for an acoustical door. The range of this product starts from around 1200 to 1300 rupees for a meter, and also goes up to around 3000, 3500, depending on the intensity and the use of what kind of a usage it is going to have. Then you take those kinds of models.
Okay.
It could be a fire retardant with a highly acoustical one. This one can give you a 37 decibels, which is reasonably well isolated, and your work might be done. So usually, I do not recommend an external one because anything that hits it, it might tend to bend or something. Once something goes inside the door, it is not damaged at all. But yes, it needs to be taken care during the construction stage that you create a groove for this. And after it is installed, you never, usually these things do not fail. So they go on till your door lasts.
Right.
Similarly, lower on the lower end, if you do not have a rebate, then you have the drop down seal. On the sides also there are gaps. These are filled with something like called what we call as a perimeter seal or a door gasket. So for this also you need to plan your door well. Like if you see in this image, now if I require, this is around 13 mm, so I require around 14 to 15 mm width over here. I require a distance of around 4 mm for it to press properly and nicely. So when I place it over here, when the door closes, there are two advantages. The rubber fixes itself to it and doesn't allow air from these gaps from here to pass through the room, and it blocks the sound from here. The second thing is that if there is a banging or something which is happening, this takes most of the banging noise and the impact. So it stops the impact noise as well as it stops the airflow going from through the perimeters. So this, along with a drop down as a combination, is works for isolating a door really well. If either one of them is not there, then probably the effectiveness wouldn't be to that extent. Now I just take you through what places or what is so critical about certain industries. Now in hotels, what is important is that there is something what we call as a late check-in and late check-out. And people go to hotels for maybe relaxation, for playing or something like that. So one thing is that if somebody is playing a loud television in their room, it should be not heard in the lobby. When there is somebody having a late check-in or a check-out and they are walking in the corridors and talking in the corridor, it should not disturb a person who's sleeping inside the room. So both of them are critical. And over here, what happens is that is why acoustical door is very important. The cascading of their doors is very important. They require a fire door, but with that, they have to have these seals, drop-down seal and a cascading, which is really important. After this as well, if you go to good hotels, you will find a soft music being played in the lobby area. That is also being played in order to curtail that additional sound, what we call as a sound masking system, which I was talking about. So that music also acts as a sound masking system. So what happens is that even if there is a little transmission of sound from within the room to outside, that is being covered by the soft music which is playing continuously and does not disturb somebody else.
Right.
So these are the two things which are very critical in hotels. Restaurant is something which is highly, you can say, noisy.
Yeah.
Because many people are coming, talking, people come to talk, they come to enjoy actually their dinner and lunch, and the main thing is that they are talking loudly. The second thing is that when there is a background noise is by itself very loud, you intend to speak louder to communicate. The moment you start speaking louder, the other person gets disturbed and then he tends to speak louder, and that increases the intensity of the echo in the room. So this treatment which we had done over here, you see there are certain panels which are hanging on the top. So this was a unique place. This was an heritage structure. The architect didn't want to change the look from below, and wanted to show the full height. So what we had is a baffle ceiling where we put those 9 mm panels hanging from the top and absorbed a significant amount of echo. Earlier, before pre-launch, when there was a soft launch where they had invited certain people to just have a feel about the music and the experience they had, people actually walked out of the room because it was very echoic. They couldn't hear the music, they couldn't talk. Whatever they used to talk used to echo back to them. And it was not a place where people wanted to sit for a long period of time. And after the treatment, it was successfully launched, and there was a waiting of one week when it was launched. So, it was, to that extent, the echo was reduced. Similarly, Panduls was an art gallery and an auction house. There was limited echo, but the unique thing about Panduls art gallery is that there is an auction which happens right in front, and simultaneously people are bidding also from online. So like how we are having this thing online class, similarly the bidding is happening real time online. So they couldn't afford to have an echo where one single painting was being sold for around 1.5 CRs, 2 CRs, and all those values. So they couldn't afford to have an echo where a person on the mic, where a mic was catching 2 or 3 feedbacks, and the person and client or the end customer who could have bought a painting would not be able to hear. So this was a kind of a treatment where their whole ceiling was black, so that the highlight would be the walls and the paintings. And we did a moderate kind of acoustical treatment where only the AC and certain patches where the echo needed to be contained, we had contained that.
Okay.
So it was just an echo treatment. Call centers are predominantly places where people are talking at one time. More than 50 people, 100 people talking at one time. Highly echoic, and everybody is trying to make a pitch. So the client should not hear. Like many a times, if you get a call from a Vodafone or Airtel, you can always come to know only it's an Airtel or a Vodafone because you can hear 20 people talking behind. But international call centers cannot, they have certain restrictions, and the customers do not take it very lightly. So over there are two things which people use. One is very absorptive surfaces. Your ceiling is highly absorptive in nature. The board in front of you is highly absorptive in nature, and still there is going to be a lot of sound which is being done covered by sound masking system. So where we create a background white noise, which is stable. Any stable noise which is non-fluctuative in nature, you get accustomed to it. So you play that kind of a sound so that the other people's, the maximum sound which is going through your microphone is of your neighbor, and you do not hear 20 or 30 background noise in the microphone. So that is what usually we do in BPO.
Okay.
Coming to studios, auditoriums, discotheques, and experience center. Over here, both the things are equally important. One is isolation, and the second is corrective treatment of echo. Now, if you talk about Dharma productions or editing rooms and dubbing rooms, you require highly absorptive and isolative rooms. Reason being that microphones are highly sensitive because they want the smallest of the pitch getting recorded. And they don't want that external sound to come inside during the recording or getting recorded into their microphones. So that absorption is also required because the echo of the singer should not again go back into the mic. So it is equally important to have high absorption as well as high isolation. So these are very specific rooms where people are ready to spend for these activities. Now coming to theaters, NCPA and Prithvi Theatre. Now these are two different theaters. NCPA is the National Center of Performing Arts at Nariman Point in Mumbai, where they are going to have more of musical shows. The musical shows, to enhance the experience of the music, you require a little higher level of reverberation time or echo. So I would say you would require a reverberation time of around 1.45 seconds minimum to have that experience of a music show. So you require that sound to go across the auditorium till the last seat and still have a reverberation time of 1.45 across the room. So, and not too high, not too low. Similarly, if I go to Prithvi Theatre, over here there are acts which happen which are more of verbal acts. There is no music. It's more of a verbal theatre. Over here, they want an absorption coefficient of 0.9. They don't want the sound to echo to that extent. 0.9 is sufficient enough for the sound to be contemplated to a human ear for speech. So this theatre has been treated completely different by us, and this theatre has been treated completely different by us. So you have to understand what the need of the client is. However, again, today we are relying more on equipment rather than the architectural part of it. So many a times you compromise on, you can say, the echo part of it and use speakers and amplifiers to give you that same kind of an impact. So earlier, where the live performance was heard through the original voice of the people, like in NCPA, now it is getting again passed on to the viewers through speakers and amplifiers. So if you are using amplifiers and speakers, then probably you can have more of absorption and bring the echo down, because there are going to be multiple speakers at multiple places which are going to transmit a sound, and you don't want them to echo. Press Play was one of the other studios which we had done. Fountainhead was a training leadership center. They had a unique requirement that during the day they use it as one of the rooms they use it as a conference rooms and training rooms, and in the night they converted it into a discotheque. So for the people who have gone over there, so we had to work the acoustics in a similar fashion, that there was the bass would remain high if they had to play music, because that is a discotheque. What people want is a high bass, and that sound should not travel out, because there was village. This is placed in a secluded area very close to a village, and due to time restrictions, after 10 o'clock you cannot play loud music or something. They needed highly soundproof. Unique thing about this place was it had six, one, two, three, four, yeah, four double doors, two full-size windows, and still we were able to achieve the isolation where to a point where the villagers were not able to complain. While earlier, before doing this, even a small sound they used to play, they used to call the cops. And now they play at the loudest of the volume, and there is no complaints. This was a achievement, because treating a double door is really difficult in nature. It's very easy to treat a single door. So we had achieved this over there. It was a unique thing. Suddenly there was a jam room where they wanted a sufficient amount of sound to travel, but not disturb the neighbors as well. It was a minimal budget, and we did you can say, justification of the cost they had spent, or the price they had paid for.
Right.
And educational institutes, offices, and factories. Now, these also have certain different things. Educational institutes don't want the sound to be too dead, because when the teacher is speaking, the sound should travel to the last person nicely. So you need a ratio time of somewhere close to around 1.9 to 0.1 again, just like a Prithvi theatre. So it should not be more echoic, so that it creates fatigue for the children, as well as it should not be too soft, so that the last person over there is not able to hear only and the sound has been absorbed. That is what is required. Ascent International is the school where I told you that the auditorium was highly echoic and needed a treatment. Within Spiral, we had created a sliding folding partition, where many places like banquet hall or something, where you want to use it as a big large space sometimes, and sometimes you want to use it at two small places on a normal occasion. So maybe there is a yearly you can say a yearly conference or something, you might require a big conference room, and you might want to remove the walls so that all people can sit together. And across the year, you might want to use it as a 4 cabins, meeting rooms or something like that. So sliding folding partition is something which is acoustic in nature and can be used in those parameters. So that can be considered right now. ACC Cement House, we have done their windows, existing windows with the cascading and reduce the sound levels. Johnson & Johnson, we have done their machine noise. We have done their machine noise and treated their factory noise. The labor is not supposed to, actually, they have international norms, so they were first initially not going by Indian norms. And the shop floor, the sound level was really high, and they wanted to curtail the sound on the shop floor level. And I recommended them to just treat the machine rooms, and actually the shop level noise actually reduced significantly. So that was an achievement by itself. Well, and JSW and Juris Copper offices, which we have done. Over there, it was privacy was an issue, so we have treated them for privacy.
Okay.
Yeah. So having said this, again, I repeat that all insulation materials will be fibrous or will be something which will be having air impact on it, and those are the ones usually used for insulation. An exception I would say would be a thermocol. Thermocol is one isolative material where I do not find air pores or air packets within it. But the disadvantage is that it has a very low fire retardancy. So if there is even a small fire, it will spread the fire. So something which is not desired as such.
Right.
Anything else, Rishi, you would like, or
I would just, it has been still informative so far, but just a little briefing on my batch of other senior students who have been doing their project on recreational spaces, out of which one is a library, which is right here on the screen. You can just break them as to number one, when is the right time to get a consultant in? Secondly, what kind of acoustics would be required for a space like library?
Okay. Right time to get an acoustician in would be in the initial stage of planning, because when you're designing something, he can tell you that how much echo or what is going to be, and how much wood to use, how much fabric to use, or what type of material to use, and then you can design, because you don't want to get into designing part and then come to know that okay, in this design this will not work.
Yes.
So ideally, it is advisable that you have an acoustician in the earlier stage. Maybe he can just, as per the drawings, he can just tell you that how much wood or how much acoustical material you want to use, or he can work with along with you how to design or what kind of design you can put in that space, and then you can fine tune that, with your creativity.
Okay, great.
That comes certain places like in library. You don't require much of an acoustician as such. If you know your basics are right, it's correct, and probably you require a person like me at all. So
Okay.
the prerequisite of a library is that the space needs to be silent, and it should not echo, because if somebody is whispering, it should not disturb anybody else.
Right.
So there could be 2-3 things you can do, you can play around with. One thing for sure, you have to have it isolated. So from, let's say, the drawing which we are seeing, what I can see over here are glass windows. Now these windows, if they are sliding in nature, there's bound to be some sound which is going to come from here.
Right.
But I see a bookshelf also, so I don't know whether this is a half bookshelf or it is going to go right to the ceiling.
Actually, these are ventilators as of now. This is a basement, and the sill height is around 9 feet, so the bookshelves are below that.
Okay.
So, and the floor which is planned here is carpeted in form of carpet tiles.
Okay.
And there is a e-library towards the end of the project, like the staircase right there.
Okay.
And there is also a kids library which is just close to the reception.
Okay.
So this is a closed space, the kids library. The rest of the library is an open space.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2-3 things I would suggest is over here, like looking at this. Even when this is there, rather than having a window, what if you create a ventilation where you create a Z bracket and throw the air out and in through an exhaust?
Right.
Would that work? Because that where you're creating a Z bracket or something, you can put absorptive material which absorbs a little bit direct and doesn't allow the direct sound to come inside. So it becomes an indirect sound which gets absorbed before it comes inside. So that becomes one of them. Book rack, if it is covered with a glass cupboard kind of a thing, then it becomes a reflective surface. But if it is exposed books stacked on the shelves, then it is a very good thing for diffusion of sound, and probably you reduce the requirement for acoustics as such.
Okay.
You've used a carpet, so carpet is going to absorb a significant amount of sound, so it is a good thing. So for isolation, I would suggest that have Z brackets over and put absorptive material over here. One thing could be a little concern over here is when I see these washroom directly exposed. So I would suggest having a entry point, something like this in an L shape, where you have high absorptive material facing this.
Okay.
You don't want a flushing noise to actually go and disturb everybody, and everybody coming to know, like, so it becomes very disgusting, because as soon as you come out and there is a flushing sound or something, everybody is going to look over here because the whole place is going to be silent. So you become the center of attraction. So I would ideally have put something over here, a barrier over here with absorptive material facing this side to absorb as much sound I can, and probably those seals over here to curtail the sound as much as possible.
Okay. Okay.
Absorption is something which you should look at. Carpet is one of the good things. I don't know, basement, if there is any water leakage or seepage, anything, the first thing what will happen is your carpet is going to get spoiled and moist. So something you should consider. Ideally, putting good material on the ceiling and having a wooden flooring is something I would have suggested.
Okay.
So
So Ishika, you can make a note of this point. And the next is
so
yeah.
So I would just like to ask a question. So how do we like reduce the sound of floors? Like if we are walking on a second floor and if the voice is reaching on the first floor.
the impact noise, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'll come to that. So, are we clear on this point as such? Is the library furniture layout okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the next is in the line is after library. This is the same thing. She has created a mezzanine floor on top of it, a small area that is.
Okay.
And the next is a self-defense training center. Although some part of it is open, the dojo area, which is in the center, is having sliding doors and a wooden structure completely. And the rest of the fitness part is all open, and the judo room is also open.
Okay. Okay. So now when I look at this, now let's assume that I, as a person who wants to join the training room or something like that, and I'm sitting at the reception, if it is too quiet, I will not like it. I will not get that kind of energy. So I want the sound to travel in this place. I don't want it to be echoic, but I want the sound to travel so that people feel that liveliness and energy.
Motivated.
So over here, I would use more of diffusers rather than anything else. The same thing goes in the judo room and the dojo room. That is where you do your you want people to feel that lively and that strength or that energy coming out from that person. So you want that liveliness. A little bit echo also in a judo room or a dojo room might do. It might be good. But ideally at a reception area or more on this floor space, if I have to do more of walls or something like this, I would prefer using more of diffusers.
Okay.
So I would want to break the sound into smaller pieces. However, the energy levels remaining the same.
Right.
Yeah. There is another thing. I don't know which floor would this be on.
This is the basement. We are following the same plan, the same layout. Yeah.
So since it is a basement, I don't have to worry about the flooring part of it because, or I would be really worried about those equipments and training center where the weights and everything has been kept. Over there, you would have to create another flooring, what we call as a room-in-room concept kind of a thing. So you would have to actually create an artificial flooring on top of it, and then use it as a weight space if it was on some other floor. Since it is more on the basement, so then that is not a problem.
Right.
However, if you use it, it is advisable. The reason being is that or you have those rubber carpets or mats which come usually because there's going to be impact noise, and the impact noise is always going to travel through the beams across.
Right.
So marginal treatment would help. Putting the material like tech sound, putting vibrational pads, and then creating a flooring for this area where the weights are going to fall down is advisable. So you will have to create an area where you are put, and again on top of that ply or something, again you will have to put a little bit of concrete as well, because you don't want it to break. Or something, when the weight falls, it will break immediately. So you don't want it to break, so you'll have to do a concreting. So you'll have to reduce the height a little. Maybe you are reducing the height, or you are raising the flooring by somewhere close to around 10 to 12 inches.
Right. Okay.
So you have to be prepared for that. As far as the judo room and the dojo room are concerned, they'll be having mats where people fall, they don't get hurt. So as it is, that is not a problem. So
Right.
apart from that equipment area, I would suggest only using diffusers or partially or very limited use of absorbers, so that there is sufficient amount of echo inside the room and the energy is not completely lost.
True. Right, sir. Right. Vaishali, you can make a note of everything sir has said.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we move on to the next. That is the yoga center, and she has divided the yoga studio into three different, actually in four different parts. Close to the reception is a kids area, so the people can drop their kids and then have a 1 hour yoga class. So the concept is that, and she has divided the three studios as per the age, and the washrooms are center as in somewhere in the center where there is a proper partitioning and things done, and she has created a sitting there.
Correct.
So yeah, your views on that?
Yoga center, I would say there's nothing much required. Only thing is you require a lot of silence
Yeah.
in a yoga center because all work is going to be quiet. Since the advantage is that okay, these partitions over here also need not be very highly acoustic in nature, just moderately acoustic, because anybody who's coming for yoga are going to be more or less quiet people only. They are not going to be people who are going to be very noisy. They come for a calm mind, so they are not going to be somebody who's going to be yelling and shouting and doing that.
Right.
What you require in these areas, I would suggest more of absorption.
Okay.
That is the only thing. Isolation will be decent. In yoga, you're not going to speak loud. The trainer is not going to speak loud. Everybody is just going to follow the trainer. And if you are creating this partition by a brick wall, then there's nothing to worry about.
Okay.
I think
So
so.
we are planning glass and wood so far, so that
Okay.
the things are visible in the corridor also of what is going inside.
Okay. So if you are going with glass, then you require you will require a laminated glass or a double glazed unit. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going with wood, then you will require a framework and an infill in between.
Okay. Fine.
So
Yeah, that's what I wanted. And so the concern here would be the kids area, because if at a time say 10 kids are together or say 8 kids also, and they tend to make a noise, although the place is covered with and have doors, and they'll have a supervisor also along, but then we don't want those noises to disturb the people in the reception and the yoga studio.
Ideally, not much. It will be only the movement when we are going in and out, because what I see over here, the noise is going to go in the washroom area. There is something over here. I don't know what this is, but this is also creating an additional layer of wall space.
These are bamboo plantations, just to create that. The concept is a lot more greener part there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, more or less, if you want, you can use an isolating membrane as well over here, along with your infill material when you're creating your wooden partition as such. And use an isolated membrane like Tech Sound as an additional input over here for this much space. Only this much space I would suggest, this much. Anything which is going to the washroom area, you should not be worried about.
Okay, fine. And you would suggest the glass to be laminated, as you said. The
laminated with a double glaze unit is going to be additional support for you.
Okay, thank you so much. The next in the Bhavya, I hope you're making note of it. And the next and the last one is the concern. Actually, it's a dance studio, and both the studios are close, of course, to the reception and to each other also. So they have a partition which are actually sharing a partition which is a common between the two studios. So how would we look at the acoustics here?
I would ideally suggest over here using a brick wall for sure.
Okay.
The red brick wall.
Okay.
Yeah, and then creating a framework like the one which I had created, and that other one where I had shown you the whisper foam, where I had created a framework and put whisper foam in between. Again, put a ply in front And okay, how loud is the music? Like it's going to be a loud music, right?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
dance studio.
Yeah. So then again, apply isolating membrane and again finishing it with apply.
Okay. Okay.
It is going to be something which we use in studios, but we make a complete room in room. But here we are just creating an artificial wall in front of this wall.
Okay. So after the brickwork, which is assumed to have like almost 6 inches of space, and the masking which is done on both the sides, including the wooden frames and the membranes. So the thickness would go up to say 6 plus. It would go to like 9 inches, right?
Yes, around 9 inches of space.
And we would require that isolating membranes and ply on both the sides.
One side is sufficient enough.
Okay. Fine.
Subject to from that side, there are not many electricals passing through. Or you have to create, a box and cover that box with the membrane and everything, and then put it. Ideally, you should restrict critical walls with electrical conduits and plumbing pipes.
Okay.
So this is ideally you should restrict that wall. Of course, the door needs a little bit of gasketing over here.
Okay. Fine. So
The basic.
that is yeah. So most of our concerns are solved with your we definitely, I was looking forward to the dance studio and the yoga studio, which I was really concerned about, and you have solved our query. So, thank you so much, sir.
Most welcome.
And my students, if they want to ask you something, so
Yeah, just a moment.
yeah.
Yeah, so if anybody has anything.
Yes, so I was asking about how to reduce the impact of.
Okay, the impact noise, again, as I said, if you want to reduce the impact noise from the floor, you need to raise the floor, like you have to create an artificial floor. So what you'll require is create a framework, maybe of wood. It depends on what kind of an impact is going to come. So if it is just walking, what you need to do is create a artificial floor. So you create a 2x2 grid of wood. You put some membranes. There are neoprene membranes which come. Just a moment. Yeah. So there are some neoprene membranes which come. You place that framework on the neoprene membranes at certain positions. It will be like at a distance of every 4 feet kind of a thing on the framework. And then on that, you in the gaps in between, you can fill it up with polyester wool and just overlay it. You have to ensure whenever you're doing such a kind of a construction, the edges are not touching the wall directly. You have to leave around 8 mm or 10 mm space around the periphery, so your ply does not touch the wall. And that 8 or 10 mm space which is left, you have to fill it up with sealants, so that the vibration, direct impact vibration, is not traveling through the wall as well.
Okay. That's really a point to be noted, that it has to be away from the wall. Only then it will work.
Yeah. And if you need more isolation as such, then you can always overlay on the floor. You can first put a layer of a Texan or a isolation membrane, and then put a neoprene, and then create a framework, and then.
Okay.
Now, if I was doing it for this same construction, if I was going to do it for the weights, then I would have put, after my ply, I would have also put a layer of concrete on top of it.
Okay.
With me, sir?
Yeah.
So I have two questions. So one of which is that since we talked about door drop seal, so in that, like, we usually in the monsoon season, the wooden doors, they usually tend to swell and sort of slightly bend in, not much, but like they slightly tend to bend in some angle. So is that going to reduce the efficiency of
The drop-down seal, no. The drop-down seal will keep working because it is placed inside the door and it will remain. The edges don't tend to bend. It is the expansion and the contraction which happens. So yes, the performance of the perimeter seals pressing could be a concern. The gaskets pressing could be a concern. but then it depends on ideally I would prefer using old teak wood for your construction of doors. So if you're using old teak or materials such as old teak for creating your door, then probably this problem does not happen to that extent.
Okay, sir. And so the second question was that, sir, in large halls and auditoriums, where I as a speaker would want my audience to, like, even the audience in the end to, like, listen my voice. So, sir, as you mentioned that we'll use like materials like panels on the walls and on the ceilings. So, sir, like, and I would also like, for example, and I would also want like the voice to not go outside of the auditorium. So what could be done for that?
Now, okay, are you planning to use the support of the speakers and the amplifier or no? My question would be that.
So, I'll take the example of theaters, cinemas. So, in that,
Hmm.
I was thinking that if I'm in the auditorium, I can listen the voice. I can listen to the voice and sounds. And when I'm outside the theater, like even if I'm just outside the door, I cannot hear anything. So, how does that work?
Okay. Predominantly, if you see in a theater or in a cinema, then I won't call it an auditorium. I'll call it a cinema or a multiplex. If you predominantly see, usually you will find that when you enter an auditorium or something, your door is lower, and your the last seating is on a height, right? So you're creating an area of isolation already, or you're creating a groove or a cove where you put a lot of absorptive materials in that small area of the staircase from where you're actually going and climbing up, and your door is actually not being seen from your sitting position. When you're doing that, you're actually reducing the sound by another, you can say, 15 to 20 decibels by absorbing the sound. Having said that, you absorb the sound, you have acoustical doors. Those doors are also acoustic in nature. So it is not only a drop-down seal or only the gasketing which is working over there. It is also the isolating membrane and the construction which has gone in a door. Like a door which I sell is not less than around 1,20,000 for these things. So it's a construction and it's a design which we've come over the years. We've experimented and we've become successful, and then we are using it. So having said that, so the door has its own quality. Plus, you are absorbing a prominent amount of sound, which is before it reaches the door, you are bringing the intensity down. And because of both of those things combined, that the sound is not coming out. The second thing is the outside area also, there is a small soft music, or it is a noisy area where the lobby is already noisy and the sound is already there. So there is a background noise of 40-45 decibels which is outside. So usually you will not hear the sound when the place is quiet. Many a times when you are gone off time and all shows are playing or something like that, you will find that in the passage you will be able to hear 2 or 3 other multiplex sounds, actually mean movie sounds coming out in the aisle. But you're not worried because that sound is again not going inside to the viewer and it's not disturbing the viewer as such. So the idea is to create a niche before it reaches the door of the cinema where you absorb the maximum amount of sound and you have an acoustical door. So then there is very little sound which comes out. And over here, you can use a lot of absorption if you want. The reason being is that the speakers are there to support the absorption. So you don't have to worry that the last person will not hear because there's a speaker even facing to the last person and he's able to hear the direct sound from the speaker. So you can use a lot of absorptive sound in cinemas. Only concern is the travel of bass. The bass should not, because of absorb too much of absorption, the bass is absorbed a little more. But looking at the current scenario, everybody will agree that in cinema halls right now the movie experience, like the standalone cinemas and the current multiplexes, is not similar. The reason being that the next cinema hall is also adjacent to the same wall. So usually they don't want to play that bass. They cut the bass down so that the vibrations do not travel to the next hall. So again, by having too much of absorption, you are killing the experience of the bass. But then, as a necessity, if it is a multiplex, you are doing it knowingly. You don't want it to travel to the other place. And bass is something which is very difficult to lower frequencies. As I told you earlier, it's very difficult to contain. And there is a limitation. There is going to be a little bit transmission for sure. and the budgets which they come out, there are very few people who are actually ready to spend on their cinemas as such, or the budgets are more towards the aesthetic point of view and less on the acoustical point of view again.
Thank you, sir.
Any other query?
So when you were talking about the yoga room plan,
Hmm.
so if we put absorbing materials in the room, does it also cuts the echoing sound in the room?
Absorption is used to cut echo.
So, but if like in yoga, if we are performing this asana or something which requires vibration,
Hmm.
so does because of the reduction of, I mean, because it is cutting echo, will it also cut vibration? So if you're performing Om or the sound yoga,
Hmm.
so will it also cut the
Yes,
vibration?
definitely that will see that becomes a religious place when you're doing Om or something. As I told you in the starting,
Yeah.
meditation rooms are again different from a yoga room. And now you're talking about a meditation room or a religious place like a church, a mosque, or a temple. Those places by default you want it to be loud, and all designs of temple, mosque, or olden churches, you will find they are all echoic designs. They are all concave in nature, so that the amount of sound is collected over there, and it looks like it is full. It looks that okay, somebody is sermoning, and there are more people over there, and there are more listeners over there. So that is the kind of energy they want to send. So if you want that feeling, that becomes the meditation room, and it doesn't become a yoga room. So then you have to
Okay.
look at it as a different
Right.
thing.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
so I have another question. So that, sir, are acoustic materials also used in airplanes? Because whenever we are inside airplanes, we can like the sound of the engine is very loud, and
Hmm.
but but like whenever we are inside the airplane, we cannot hear those noise.
Hmm. Definitely, they are using it. If you are sitting next to the wing of the window, then trust me, your ears will still pain. It does irritate us a lot. But there are two reasons why they do it. One is that by default they have to use these kind of glasses because the pressure at which the flight is going, the airlines is going from ground till the height, it has to take that change in pressure in few seconds. So that material by itself is a completely different, and by default, using that material and that construction, you are also getting isolation as well. So it is not only catering to the sound; we are addressing it in 2 points. That yes, it is the sound as well as it is the pressure change in the pressure, and the glass should not break, and that is what we are trying to ideally curtail. Sound is secondary over there.
Okay, sir.
So I have a question.
Yes.
As you mentioned that BMC is nowadays very proactive and all these organizations. So do they have some parameters to recognize that what amount of decibels of sound is acceptable in specific areas?
Indian building codes does have it. It always had it over the years, past 15 years or 20 years back. Even if you see the Indian building standards, IBS has their norms in place. The thing is, nobody used to follow it. Now they are a little proactive, and they see it as an opportunity for what all reasons that it is an opportunity when somebody complains. It's more of an opportunity to harass or earn more money, because if you stop their livelihood, then probably it is going to affect them more. So they are it's a more of an opportunity to earn, and that also gives us an opportunity to earn as well, because if they don't want the other person to earn and get harassed again and again, they will call us and they will get the work done. So it helps both the ways, and yes, the norms are getting a little stricter, at least in Maharashtra, I can say. I would not say I don't know anything about Rajasthan and UP as such, but yes, in Maharashtra, yes, they are strict. If a local or even if a neighbor complains about loud noise, they do come and they actually stop it.
Right.
So it is all about how much proactive the government is.
Okay, so looking at their questions, I'm certain they have reached a different world altogether, and you have actually given them so much information that they may also think of transiting from interior designing, or after doing this, getting into a specialized course of acoustics. So why not have have a glimpse of your journey of how you got into this world, so our students can benefit the most of it.
Uh, I am an accidental student to acoustics. I'll be very honest. My background is very strange. Uh, I did my 12th in science. I was son of a businessman. I said I don't want to, I got my this thing admission in civil as well. I said I don't want to go and work under somebody. What is the use? And during those days, the civil was managed by the mafias. So I said,
Okay.
who wants to go into all those industry? I will do some business. And who wants to spend so many years and waste the years into education as such? So I took a lighter base and got into BCom. I realized BCom had nothing to teach. It was like it was a waste of time and energy. Like there was nothing. Like even not doing my 11th and 12th into commerce, I was able to score much more than the people who had done 11th and 12th. So accounts, I found that it was waste of time and energy. Anybody can do it. So I just wasted my 3 years over there, and realized that okay, fine. I needed some experience to get into some industry somehow. So and found that BCom has no value as such even in the market. So I had to do was I got into my MBA and said that okay, fine, this degree is going to have some values. So got into an MBA. The knowledge might have increased a little, yes, definitely. The way of perspective of looking at it, but the mind was still the same. That even if I was to do this business then, I would be the same person because my crux, my knowledge, which I learned in my schools, I use those principles even today. So it is what you've learned, how nicely you've learned. So I did my MBA. I got into retail sales earlier. I was into Crossword bookstores as a store manager. But finally, I realized doing that again, the passion was always to do some kind of a business. I said I don't want to open a store. No, I want to do something else. Uh, Luckily, I got, or unluckily, I got a job in Saudi Arabia, and now I got a job into an completely different field, which was managed and handled by all engineers only. I was into a pipe coating industry, which is predominantly supplying to the government, Saudi Aramco, and it had all engineering fields because right from the steel to everything we had to do, I had got into sales. Uh, Within a span of 6 months, I was like, I had learned the whole field, and I was in a manner, such a phase where I used to even debate with the engineers and prove them wrong because of the crux and the base which I had, and luckily a boss who actually passed on the knowledge very freely to me. But again, as a business mindset, that was a wonderful job, wonderful industry, everything. I said, but I do not have those billions of dollars to even start that kind of even a quarter part of that kind of an industry in India or anywhere else. So I would be still an employee all my life. I came back to India, and luckily I got a job where a company was just selling the door gaskets, and he told me to sell those gaskets. The owner was based in UAE, so he left the management to me, and I fell in love with the whole industry as such. So I started learning a lot on my own, and I started giving free advice to the clients whom I went to sell a gasket. My boss was not happy with that kind of a relationship because he said your main profile is sales, and you are not here to educate the customer. And I said that when a customer is trying to spend something, might as well he should get a result for it, so he needs to be educated for it. So there was a conflict of interest. So finally, we shook hands because the conflict of interest was always there. And since I fell in love with this line, I started my own company finally on this line. I was very lucky to be associated with international brands when I started because of my want and desire to learn about acoustics. And those principles from, you can say, from South Africa, from Canada, from Italy, they also helped me in my learning stage and the experience. And when I used to go, I was actually very bold in my approach. uh, there were jobs initially in the starting which I took it like, if I deliver I get money, if I don't deliver I don't get anything. And I started with a loan, and and the support of the family in terms of that. Okay, fine, I didn't have to give them anything in return as such. If I'm successful, not successful, we are there to pay back your loan, but we are not giving you any money as such as now. But still, I was very bold enough to experiment. I was very confident that my theory or my knowledge which I have will deliver, and I did not fail in my commitment. So whenever I took that risk initially, in fact, if I shave off now, I look very young as a boy, and many people also told me that earlier I used to look as a child when I started, though I was quite significantly old. So the first question was, okay, boss, this guy will not last in the market. If he gets the first opportunity of a good job, he is going to run away. And the basic fear which everybody in the industry has is that if I recommend him and if I tell him to do a job for me, tomorrow if he is not there, I lose my job. It's simple. If he fails, or if he does not, even dare to revisit me, if there is a failure, I lose my job. So that is when, that bringing of confidence with, that took a lot of time. That, okay, fine, the knowledge and what I'm doing. So that is why I initially had to take that risk. Okay, no money till I deliver. I had to convince them, but I'm here for a longer period of time. I'm not going to go. So that is how I have built. Then I've done some courses from, as I progressed, my learning, the technology which I brought. I've spent a lot more than I had earned earlier also. Like I would spend on technology where people used to refuse. Like I used to spend, I bring that technology with me, like the testing and everything. Not everybody is able to do it. Even today, there are very few people who can actually test an echo in a room, who can give you a proper report and a scientific explanation of that report. There are very few people in the industry. So I brought all those things over here. Then I did an online course and everything from IIT. I got myself updated much more. So wherever my concepts were little here and there haywire, they really helped me out. Now, earlier I used to depend a lot on the technology. Now I do have the capability of you giving me a drawing and telling you sitting over here that, okay, this room is going to be this echoic.
Right.
Earlier I used to depend only on the technology. That I will come at your site, I will play the speakers, I will see how much your drop is there, and then I'll tell you that, okay, this is the amount of echo which is there in the room. But now with the education also supporting me in my field of interest, yes, I've reached that kind of a thing. Since I was passionate about it, I used to love it. I did additional education in the field. So finally, though I left the civil and the engineering part of it, again I came back to the same field where I had got into it.
Right.
But though my base and the concepts were always good, I was always in touch with my old friends who were into architecture or who went into different field of electronics and IT and this and that. So since my concepts were good, rest all things kept coming in and understanding was easier to happen.
Right. Right.
It's all about your passion. Whatever you're passionate about, just do it. It might not be in the same field. It could be any field. Finally, even if you've learned this will also help you. Something else will also help you. And knowledge never goes fail. So since I'm doing my business, even though BCom was not something which helped me earlier, but yes, I'm still managing my inventory, my stocks, my accounts. Finally, it is my say. I come to know where something is going wrong and where it is not going wrong. So though I am into engineering field, I am very good at accounts as well. So that all helps. Yes.
Right, right. That was such a great insight, and surely, it has like opened some new ideas for them, that it's only not interior designing which they are going to have as an occupation in future, but if they have the determination, they can get into any selective field they want. Just that you need the
And
right
to be a
determination.
fusion of both the things together. Like my friend circle, a person who was doing really well, he is an architect by nature. He had just decided to shift to Goa at this age. He did not reach his target of what money he wanted to earn, but he shifted to Goa just like that. It was his passion. He wanted to go to Goa. He wanted to live. He sold his house, everything. He shifted to Goa. He's selling something else right now. No, he's got contacts and he's getting some jobs, architectural jobs in Goa, but that is not his passion. Now he's selling something else. He's going in a different field by itself. So his passion was, or his determination was, that I'll leave at this age. I'll leave and I'll go to Goa. That was it. He just left. You feel that, or you're leaving everything right now. You build a brand for yourself. You have so many projects over here. Then I'll complete my projects in a year or two. But if I don't, because if I stay here, I'll take another new project, and then I'll take another new project, and I'll never be able to shift. Rather, I shift first, keep visiting Mumbai for a certain amount of time, finish the projects, and then at least I settle down over there. So it's all about passion and desires. What you want in life. It's all about that.
Right. So it's been like such a nice session. Although Ali, I had told you that it has to be, but we got so engrossed in that even the 2 hours seemed less. Actually,
I told you I used to take it till 6 hours, and I don't get tired. You have to tell me, sir, let's break for lunch, let's break for this thing.
True. So when we spoke for the first time, I was the one who actually squeezed it up and said, no, we have to finish in an hour. But then it is such an engrossing session that one won't be enough. So we'll definitely organize a master workshop for our students too, and looking forward to that too. So,
maybe on a later stage for this batch at least, because once they come to, probably the 4th year is probably when the acoustics as a chapter comes in. What is it like?
Right.
The basics, again, they have a little basics, then a little more basics will come in, and then I can actually go in depth and answer their queries. I think that would be much better. But even during this period, if they want to contact, they can definitely contact.
Okay, so that would be the right time to have a bigger and
master class.
Broader, a master class. But for now, I think this information must have really opened new insights for you. So I would like to really thank you, and our students too would like to thank you. So I would ask Eshita, since she is the class representative.
Okay.
First of all, sir, a very good morning to you. I didn't get to greet you in the beginning because you were so enthusiastic and passionate about whatever you were teaching that you went straight for it. And thank you so much on behalf of all of us who are here on the call that you took time for us. I'm sure you're very busy. You took time for us out of your busy schedule, and we all of us are obliged that we got this opportunity to have a one-to-one interaction with you. And till now we understood materials and how to use it and how well they would look, but I personally would have never thought that conduits, such a small thing, could also add on to the acoustic elements. So we learned so much today and such new things. And keeping all of the acoustics aside, your life's journey as well, I mean, it was an amazing lecture, sir. And I'm sure I'd be waiting to go to the 4th year to learn this in detail. And I'm sure after this class also, most of us would be on the internet and going about all the new knowledge that we gathered. So thank you so much for that. And all of us are very inspired by you today, I must say.
Thank you so much. I am so happy that at least now you will generate some interest into acoustics, because architects, if they are interested, then they will comply and make people's life much more easier and much more better. And if you are interested, at least if you are passionate or if you feel interested also, you will definitely put it a part of your design, and that is something which is going to change the way the new architectural designs and the plans should be. And that is the whole reason why I go and educate people or speak my experiences with people, that please try to incorporate this into your designs in future. It might be my expertise might be required, may not be required. That is a different thing. But let's have better places for people to work in, to stay in. So that is the whole idea. and if I can create a little bit passion about that also amongst few of you also, I feel my job is done. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for really inspiring them. And my students have already started writing thank you, sir, thank you, sir. So they're so
Yeah.
happy with that, and I'm actually very happy to have you at Arch Academy of Design. And when the pandemic gets over, definitely if you happen to come to Jaipur, so we'll rather have a live interaction rather than the online.
Sure,
So
sure.
I'm looking forward to that too.
Sure, sure.
So
Probably I can bring
yeah,
some samples along with me. Actually,
yeah, definitely, yes. So
Or we could go to
anything
Mumbai.
Oh,
yeah,
yes, you
definitely. You're
can.
most welcome.
Yes.
Sure, you're most welcome. I can. Yeah. So
Okay.
can we call
Thank
it?
you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. And some contacts which you could like to share. He has a website. So can you just
Uh, yeah, it's apagar.in, apagar.in. Probably you could share it over the email or directly give them my number.
okay.
That is
Okay,
okay.
fine. I'll forward it. And sir also has a nice video to share, which I'll float in the group. So you can have a look at that too.
So if you have other videos also, means anything which is you would like some information for or something like that, I can always share you videos about those concerned queries which you might be having.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I'm looking forward for our next interaction.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Nishi. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Uh, okay.
Ma'am,
Okay,
thank you for
so
the session. It was actually a very, very informative session.
okay,
Very
so
interesting.
you're most welcome. The reason I got him on board was because acoustics is such a specialist field that even I could have, I would have just given you a gist of everything, not the entire thing which he has spoken about. So we are not the people who actually decide acoustics in any given place. We need to actually get a consultant in at the right time, get the right knowledge, and the entire echo testing and sound testing he was talking about. So the reason was that only, and I'm happy that you all liked it, and you all were all actually so engrossed that I could actually see 28 of you right till the end of the session. And how much were physically present, mentally absent, I don't know. But I'm hoping that you can take the most of this knowledge. So, in our material specialty session, so we have covered thermal insulation and sound insulation just now. The materials remain the same. It's the consultant who decides how much, how well, and how it is to be applied. So in the material specialty, we have, as I started the session, I had told you all कि और दो तीन materials है, that is the lightweight construction, the fire protection and the dampness protection. इन तीनों का ही ऐसे है that you have to get a consultant in at the right time, especially in the fire case. Commercial buildings में बहुत utmost necessity होती है for the firefighting system. We have to ensure that whatever is the given space, if the firefighting is not done already, we have to get in the fire extinguishers installed at the right places. So please go through the PDF which I had uploaded on the drive. It's there. Other than that, smoke detectors, fire alarms, कुछ ऐसी चीजें होती हैं जो एक must होती है commercial spaces में. In case of residential, yes, it's a big township होती है, सब होती है, उसमें सारी चीजें पहले से installed होती है, but you also have to look into it. So what I want to say is go through that PDF, then we can have a brief discussion in the next class. Our next class is on Thursday. which I'll be about to finish our sessions. Artificial materials पे एक और session जो बचता है, we'll just cover it off. और फायर dampness protection का भी already मैंने PDF upload किया हुआ है, so definitely you all have to go through it. And I'll be posting a video on the WhatsApp group, which will give you an idea of what are these waterproofing compounds and how they are actually putting. So next session will be artificial materials. I have already uploaded. I'll just take 2-3 more minutes. I have already uploaded your task for the summative assessment, which is on Monday. So be prepared for that. And if you have any issues that we didn't click pictures of our house and this and that, have some other 5 images, 4 areas of your choice. What I want to know is the gist of the entire session which we did in the last 2.5-3 months. That are you all being observant? Are you all aware of what are the materials being used? How to do, why to do is you will learn with time. But in the summative assessment, I will get an idea of, yes, you have actually started recognizing the material. So crisp presentation is what I want. And please look at the PDFs which I have uploaded and make the most of today's session. So we are about to just end the session in the next class. So looking forward, Uspo. Anything else you want to ask me? I know this has been a long session, 2 hours 20 minutes, but we are just about to finish off. कुछ पूछना है or can I end the meeting?
Ma'am, just one thing, the task for the summative assessment that you had mailed to us. Ma'am, you mentioned 4 areas of our own houses. And whatever you said just now, can we take 4 areas of different, like Google Images, for example, just to
Yes, yes,
explain
you
our
can.
points?
Yes,
So
you
it's
can. You
that
can
is
take a
not a necessity.
bedroom. That's okay. You can take a bedroom, you can take a washroom, a balcony, any 4 areas of your choice. I'm not even sticking to one thing. Entirely your take on that. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Bye bye. See you on Thursday.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Bye.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Arjun? Arjun?
हाँ बोल